My first time to talk to you, thus thanks for the privilege. I have a question about my business as it relates to law of attraction. 3 years ago, I started a business. I've never run one before. Through law of attraction and a lot of, hard work, I'm at a point where I'm starting to get a lot of resources coming to me, presenting themselves to me, which to me is completely a function of law of attraction. Now, the question I have is, most of them feel good, However, I've been fooled before, because most of the resources, it is business after all, take either an investment of time or money on my part, which is understandable. But what's kind of a truing mechanism, if any, I can have about how to sort through which ones, specifically, I've been fooled when something felt good and I've been taken advantage of, conned, manipulated, and I can't tell for sure that that's not what's happening with these resources, either one or more of them, all of them, but, and so I want to trust how I feel and follow that guidance system. But, some of these are a sizable investment on my part, and what's the best way to minimize the chance that I'm getting taken advantage of, conned, etc.?
Well, it's a wonderful question because, and a question that comes up often since we're teaching you about your guidance. And so you want to know, how can I trust my guidance? And of course, the obvious answer is you are aware of it enough that you begin to develop patterns that you understand and that you can trust. In other words, when something happens and you associate it with a certain feeling, then you realize that because these things are always true, what you're thinking and what you're feeling and what manifests always match. So what you're thinking and what you're feeling and what manifests always match, but what you're thinking and what you're feeling, in other words, what you're feeling is your first indicator. And if you persist and the feeling is constant or chronic, then it will manifest into something that feels the same. Now, we really appreciated the clear way that you presented this to us, and we think you're going to appreciate an answer here that is going beyond anything that you've heard us say before, because we're in this new place of understanding the vortex in a better way. You, as you were listening here this morning, you are up to speed in a clearer way with the vortex than you could have been with understanding the law of attraction any time before. We could feel the resonance of those of you who were listening as we were describing getting into the vortex as a result of the very first conversation that we had here. So here's what we're getting at. Let's say that you're worried about money and maybe looking for some investors or some places for you to, as you said, put your energy or put your time or put your money. But you're ready to take the action from a place of mostly concern. So almost anything from a place of concern is going to feel like a little bit of relief. In other words, it could just be wishful thinking. Somebody could be offering you something from your place of real concern, and anything would feel better than the real place of concern. So that's not a good time yet to take action, because just feeling a little relief from something that is strong concern means you could still be way out of the vortex as you're taking your action that feels like more relief. In other words, the difference between despair and revenge, there's some relief in it, and the difference between revenge and just plain old frustration, there's a lot of relief in that. And so the thought that feels like relief, you might miss your guidance cue, and you might say, well, it feels like relief, so it must be good. It must be the right action. But when you put into this mix what you are now understanding about the vortex, which means the vortex is this place where only what you want and only who you are have assembled. And there's no room for a crook in there. There's no room for someone who's going to take advantage of you. There's no way that you could take advantage of anyone in the vortex. In other words, that's pure positive energy. But the difference between being in frustration and being in the vortex is still quite a bit of vibrational difference. And so the answer to your question, we'll just give the answer to you first and then we'll shore it up with more clarification afterward, is if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would want to be aware of the vortex, and we would want to be consciously aware that we're in the vortex mostly before we would start following the hunches and the inspiration that come from within it. Now, feel the difference. We talked earlier, did you catch the concept of being a cooperative component?
Yes.
Well, a cooperative component, when you're in the vortex, it feels so compelling and so exhilarating at the same time that nothing could keep you from it. That's an in the vortex rendezvous with an idea or with a person that's really on target, on target, on target. You just know for sure, nobody could talk you out of it. Where an outside the vortex coming together could just feel like better than what I've got going on, but it's a way different feeling than that certainty you have when you're inside the vortex. So we would encourage you to just be patient a little longer before you take action, and just say to yourself, the action that I offer is going to be that really for sure inspired action where I'm consistently in the vortex long enough to know. Let's back up just a little bit, because we want to depict for you verbally, if we can, the sort of difference. So an outside the vortex difference would be, I want things to go well. Things are going pretty well. I think I'm getting a handle on this. Here's an idea that could work. Should I or shouldn't I? Should I or shouldn't I? Still really outside the vortex. And inside the vortex is, this thought's too specific and doesn't feel good, I'll find a general thought. This thought's too specific and doesn't feel good, I'll find a general thought. This thought's too specific, I'll find a general thought. Well, I believe things are working out for me, and I believe in the power of the vortex, and I really get that law of attraction is this powerful law, and I like feeling good, and I like feeling secure, and now you've talked yourself into the vortex, and now from inside the vortex, it feels like a comfortable place. It feels like a satisfying place. And then you begin noticing that in this clear space, your edginess is gone. You're not worried so much, even though there's no real reason for you not to worry. Not that much has changed, but you can feel the stability of being in the vortex longer, and then hanging around in the vortex for no good reason other than it feels good to be there. Kicks you out occasionally, you get back in. It kicks you out occasionally, you get back in. But you're starting to recognize that you're there. And then an idea occurs to you. It is our promise to you that when the in the vortex idea occurs to you, you will recognize it as an in the vortex idea. Because it is so much more than those outside. In other words, you wouldn't find yourself be saying, should I, shouldn't I? Should I? Yes, no. Let's pull the wings off flies until we decide. Yes, no. No. You will know it. It will be so clear to you, you will know it. No, not even a close consideration. You will know it. You'll be saying, get out of my way. This is what I want to do. Because once you get in there and those ideas start hatching, now you're a cooperative component. And here's the thing that we want you to hear. Once you're in the vortex and you are a cooperative component, things begin happening fast. Ideas come on ideas. You find yourself talking about it. People start rendezvousing with you. It begins unfolding fast. It's not, no, should I, shouldn't I, should I, should. When you're in the vortex, it unfolds fast and you know it. So now, as we said, we're going to back up and sort of shore this up in a way that you really get it. We don't want you to be pessimistic, and we don't want you to be taken advantage of. And we don't want you to take action before you really know that you're in the vortex. But in all of those saying what we don't want, or acknowledging that what you don't want, what we do want is that you feel certain before you act. What we do want is that you feel stable in the vortex. And what we do want to impart to you is that you can get stable in the vortex in a day. Certainly in a week.
Right.
And you have the time to do that. And so as you leave the specifics of the deals that people are wanting to make with you out of the equation, and you just get into the vortex and let that be the only thing that matters, and then you revisit them. When you are in the vortex and you know you're in, you got in easily, you can get in easily if you get booted out, you hang around in there, and you're starting to feel your frisky self returning, and you're starting to feel a sort of security and a clarity about it. After about a week of that kind of hanging around in there, when you reintroduce that thought to the vortex, you'll know in a heartbeat. Because when you introduce a shady potential deal to the vibration in the vortex, you'll go out so fast, and the contrast, you won't say, I'm not sure. You'll say, I'm sure.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm sure.
That makes sense. I had one of those experiences you were talking about where, I found him in the vortex, and then that rapid fire thing happened. So I know from experience what you're talking about. I just went for it, and the results were phenomenal. So now the rapid stuff's coming as a result of that, and I feel like I have to move fast. I think you're telling me to just slow down.
What we're telling you is maintain, let your relationship with the vortex be the thing that matters most. In other words, get in the vortex and then decide. Get in the vortex and then consider. Get in the vortex. Because there's a tendency, even Jerry and Esther understand all of this very clearly. They're like you. They get it intellectually. But sometimes, like you, they'll get overwhelmed or and when they make a decision from a place of overwhelmment, their decisions from a place of overwhelmment are as rotten as a brand new person's decision from a place of overwhelmment. In other words, it doesn't matter how long you've been studying this stuff and how well you know it. If you make a decision from outside the vortex, it's going to bite you.
Very good. Okay.
It just will, and you just can't get around it. You have to show yourself. You have to show yourself. You have to teach yourself, show yourself, demonstrate to yourself that you know the difference between being in the vortex and being out of the vortex. And then you have to make a sort of commitment to yourself. My decisions are all going to be made when I'm sure I'm in the vortex. So I'm going to get in the vortex and then get in the vortex and then talk to my kids. Get into the vortex and then decide about things that matter. Get in the vortex and then drive my car. Get in the vortex and then. Get in the vortex and then.
Gosh.
Get in the vortex, and then, and you'll never have that question again. And of course, after the fact, you say, I've been burned a few times. Well, after the fact, it's pretty easy to think back on where you were and realize, well, of course, that's right where I was.
Yep.
I was in a protective mode. I was in a overwhelmed mode. I was in a trying to fix it from being really aware of the problem mode. In other words, it becomes crystal clear. And isn't it nice that you have all of this benefit of all of this personal understanding? Because words don't teach. In other words, we can talk all day about the laws, we can talk all day about your guidance system, but until you consciously acquaint yourself with the guidance system and you show yourself that there's plenty of relief outside the vortex, plenty of relief, but that's not enough reason to act on something. In the vortex, it's not relief, it's knowing.
Good.
It's knowing. It's certainty. Esther remembers when she made the decision that she was going to be with Jerry, and everybody in her life said, don't do it.
Yeah. Oh, I've been there too.
And to each and every one of them, she said, I love you very much. Get lost. Get lost. I'm not listening to you. I don't care what you think. You don't know. 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 I know. I know. And when you feel like that, and you can feel that way about everything that is important to you. You can feel that way about where you decide to have lunch. You can. We're not kidding you. You can, when you're in alignment, it doesn't matter how big the idea is. When you're in alignment, alignment feels like alignment. You're sure. And you recognize that in people who are charismatic, or in people that you say have that strong attraction power. What they've got is alignment with things going well, and things do go well.